So I've been a big skeptic of folding phones in the past because folding phones are very expensive. They're often not very durable and they normally have a lot of compromises. But this is the year that a lot of those things are changing, and the Z Fold 7 is finally a good foldable phone that I could recommend very strongly for a lot of people. So we're gonna get into why I would recommend it in this full review. So let's get right into it. So when I look at all of these folding phones of the past, I look back and I just shake my head. Normally, these folding phones, they are very, very heavy. They are normally lacking really good main cameras. And yes, it was so awesome and innovative, but there were often a lot of compromises. Sometimes it was the weight. A lot of folding phones were getting these cracks down the middle of their screens. And whenever you look at all of those things put together, it was very hard for me to recommend a folding phone. But this year, whenever I look at the Z Fold 7, it is so impressive because they took a lot of the issues that a lot of people had with folding phones and they were able to address them. Now, yes, there are still some compromises, and that's why I actually wanted to take a little bit of time before I released a full review. So first off, you have to understand that the Z Fold 7, one of the biggest things that they did address with this phone is durability, because the Z Fold 7 is rated to be folded 500,000 times, and when you look at that, that is a massive improvement over previous Z Folds. They also have changed up the hinge as well. They've really done some other things to increase the durability, even adding some titanium. I believe there's like a little titanium layer in the screen or inside the phone to actually allow it to be a lot more durable. And whenever you factor all of those things in, this phone, it is going to have much better durability than we've seen in previous generations. And whenever I look at a jerry-rig everything video, I know it's not normal for us to just completely bend our phones in half, but the fact that this phone is so thin and so light, but you're also able to bend it in half and it's not going to completely shatter, at least in most cases, that is just so impressive. Now, one of the other problems we've had with folding phones in the past is the fact that they have just been way too heavy. But now with the Fold 7, it actually weighs less than the Galaxy S25 Ultra. And now we can get the same flagship camera, the main camera sensor that we get in the S25 Ultra, and we can get it in the Fold 7. It is so unique and so awesome to have a phone experience that's so different. And that's why you're probably seeing a lot of reviews that are super positive and they don't talk about a lot of negatives because it is so enamoring and awesome whenever you use it for the first time and whenever you experience it. Now that will wear off over time, and pretty soon you're going to realize that, yeah, it's a really good phone and it really turns into a great tablet, but there are still some compromises with folding phones that we haven't resolved quite yet, because you are going to have a little bit of a crease there. So yeah, there is a little bit of a compromise that does still exist. And you have a gorgeous screen, a huge 8-inch screen that you could of course use. So that is a great thing, but you are going to see black bars if you're watching videos because of the aspect ratio. It's not going to be a full screen video, right? This is going to be so good whenever you are scrolling around and actually using your device. Whenever you are on social media, having that large display is going to be awesome for reading. And you're going to be able to see that as you use it. But whenever you are watching videos, it is just going to be a little bit larger than a flagship phone. But you're not going to see a screen that's completely full, of course, whenever you're on YouTube or watching Netflix or Hulu or something like that. Now, if you are doing other things, though, like gaming, you are going to be able to see everything, at least in most games, in all of its glory. It's going to look amazing. This tablet is quite incredible for gaming. And of course, you get the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, plenty of RAM and storage. So getting a great front screen that's actually wider than previous years, opening it up to a full phone, it's amazing. But once again, there are minor compromises whenever you go to a folding phone. So for me, I noticed, for one, it was very hard to find cases to protect them. Folding phones, they have these little flimsy cases, and the flimsy cases you have to normally keep on with adhesive. I will say Binks actually makes a really good case that I actually really like, and it's so unique because it actually covers up, and that's something not a lot of people will talk about, but it actually covers up the left side of the phone, which could be a little bit pokey, right? You've got the corners of the phone, and if you have a case, let's say it's a two-piece case, you're gonna have both edges of the case sort of digging into your hands. But if you have something like the Binks case or a case that covers up your hinge, then you're going to have a more comfortable experience with your phone. It's just gonna feel better to hold. Thinborn also makes a really good case, by the way, but it's hard to find cases that are super thin, that you like the design, that cover up the hinge, that feel good in the hands. So it's a minor pain point we have to talk about, but yeah, cases are a problem. Luckily, I did find a couple of good cases. Again, I will link them in the description. But you are going to have to deal with a little bit of a hard hunt for a good case. And one thing people have to think about is the battery life. So this doesn't have silicon carbon batteries, of course, so they didn't upgrade to that new technology. And I did actually hear there are some reasons for that. You might not have quite as much capacity, but at least your battery should last a little longer, at least in years. But these batteries are still pretty small for a folding phone. After all, you have like an 8-inch tablet here whenever you open it up, but the battery size is pretty small. So if you are wanting your phone to last all day, this phone will last for most people, but whenever you're using it and really opening up that screen, gaming for a long time, yeah, you are probably going to have to top up a little bit if you are a power user. For me, I was getting around 5 hours of screen on time on average, sometimes 5.5. But some people are reporting around 4, and some people might report around 6 to 7 hours. It just does vary depending on the user. But generally speaking, most people are actually letting their phone last through the day, and battery life has been good. Now there is a way to turn the performance profile down to light, and that can save you a little bit of battery life, because this phone, it is so fast that you could turn it down to light and it will still be fast enough for pretty much everything you need to do. With that Snapdragon 8 Elite, it is flying through pretty much everything. Of course, I've been able to do some good emulation on it. I've been able to game on it on high settings. I've even been able to play some good Fortnite on it and turn up a lot of those graphics. So it's been a very, very good experience for me gaming and using this day to day. The multitasking is also next level, of course, because whenever you have such a large phone, you can actually go into the settings and turn it on to where you can swipe with 2 fingers and it will instantly allow you to open a second app. You can also go from app to app with the taskbar, which you can actually turn that on permanently if you want it at the bottom of your screen. So I do a lot of multitasking on this phone, and it just works so good whenever I'm doing it. It's also great for reading. It makes me want to read more on my phone, which is just good for me in general. Now we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the price. It is a $2,000 phone, but I think a lot of people, the way you could justify it is the fact that if you buy a really nice phone like an S25 Ultra, let's say you spend $1,000 or even $1,200 on a phone like that, and if you buy a nice tablet, that tablet could cost $600 or $700 or $800 if you get a good tablet. Well, if you think about it that way, you're going to spend about the same cost on one device, so you don't have to buy a tablet. A lot of people out there need to realize this phone, it will replace your tablet, and that's for better and for worse. It really drags me away from a bigger device, which sometimes would be nice, but whenever you have a 8-inch tablet in your hands, well, the 8-inch tablet is good enough for tablet use. And that could be a good justification for some of you who are looking for that. But for some of you, you would never spend $2,000 on a phone. And if you are one of those people, just consider that T-Mobile and a lot of other carriers, they will often offer you like $1,100 for a trade-in. I know T-Mobile has that deal. And sometimes they will even accept phones as old as an S10e or a really old Galaxy phone. Some carriers might even take broken phones and stuff like that. So there are plenty of ways to get this phone at a discount through a carrier. And you could even look online on eBay or Swappa, buy from some reputable sellers, and I bet you could get it for $1,500. You could probably get it for a little less than the normal $2,000. Now there is one compromise we haven't talked about yet. That is no S Pen support. So that is a big bummer for people who loved to use the S Pen on previous folding phones. But for me, I'm okay with it. I rarely used the S Pen, and there are some capacitive styluses you could get. I actually saw a video where someone was using one of these capacitive styluses, and when he was using it, he was really using it hard to see if it would damage the screen, and it didn't actually leave a mark at all. So there are some styluses out there that would be safe to use with your Z Fold 7. Again, I will link one of them in the description, but you're not going to get the same features that you would from a typical S Pen. You will have to work around some of those. So the last thing we need to talk about is the cameras. Now, we do have the same 200 megapixel camera. The main sensor, right, is the same as the Galaxy S25 Ultra. But the secondary cameras are still a little bit of a compromise whenever we do compare this to the S25 Ultra or some other phones out there like the Google Pixel 9 Pro. But at the same time, we do have to understand that most people will use the main sensor for like 90% of their shots. Of course, if you have kids, maybe they have some type of concert or a football game or something, yeah, you might pull out that zoom for those situations. And this does have a zoom lens that can actually catch some of those things, and it's not going to be quite as good as the S25 Ultra for zoom shots. But if we look at the main camera for 4K video or for photos, you are going to see it is terrific. Now, is this the best camera in any phone in the world? Of course it's not. There are some Vivo phones or other phones internationally with these ginormous sensors, and yeah, you might get a little bit of better photos from some of those phones. But realistically, the photos are amazing here. The quality is top notch. These are great flagship level cameras, and especially in the main camera sensor. The main camera sensor here is absolutely superb, and Samsung has done a great job fine-tuning this camera in the software. So I am loving the pictures here. I am loving the video quality. It is so nice to finally have a good camera sensor in a folding phone. I'm just so impressed with that. At least in the US, it's not something we've really been able to say very often. So what do I think of the Z Fold 7 and who should really buy it? Well, it's very interesting because I think they really resolved a lot of issues with foldables. They resolved a lot of the durability issues. Now, technically, there is still a built-in screen protector you do need to keep on your display, and I would recommend keeping it on. But if it does peel off within a year or two, normally Samsung will replace it for free, or maybe you could go to a U-Break iFix store, and they are a good partner for Samsung with foldable repairs. So, there are still some things like having a built-in screen protector, having a crease, having a battery that's smaller, and not having the zoom cameras. Those are really the compromises here. But in exchange for those things, and no S Pen support, in exchange for those things though, you are going to be able to have an awesome phone that you could fold open and you could end up with a flagship tablet, or you could close it and have a nice flagship phone there. It is such an awesome thing to be able to have both of those things at the same time. And the fact that it's more durable than previous years, that's amazing. The fact that it can fold way more times, the fact that we get the 200 megapixel camera, and we get a phone that is an 8-inch tablet, but lighter than the Galaxy S25 Ultra. If you factor all of those things in, this is a major change in foldables. This is a massive thing that has turned me from a skeptic to a believer in foldables. And I am just so impressed with it this year. The Fold 7 is definitely a foldable to get. Now, depending on who you are, some people will just never want to spend more than $1,000 on a phone. They don't care. Some people would prefer to have a tablet and a phone. A lot of people on my channel actually would like that. It's still a little bit of a niche thing, these foldable phones. So I completely get it. $2,000 might be too much. $1,500 on the used market, even $1,000 might be too much for you. So some of you might want to to wait and look at the used market and wait a little bit over time if you are really hesitating. But some of you should take the plunge. Don't be afraid to just spend a little money, if you have the money, of course, and spend it on something you will really enjoy. This is a fun phone that will get you excited about phones, like it did for me. I'm a huge techie, and the fact that I could experience such a unique phone, and I went to Galaxy Unpacked and experienced it in person, but then I've been able to test it out for myself, and I just have to say, the Fold 7 is definitely a game changer for foldables, and it's definitely a game changer for foldables in the US. Of course, some people in international markets aren't impressed. They've seen a little bit of this tech in the past year or two, but I am absolutely impressed. I am floored by it. I am in love with it. But the Z Fold 7, it's niche, it's expensive, but it's really, really cool this year, and I really like it, even if there are still a few compromises that we still see on folding phones. At least they've solved most of them. Hopefully, again, you like this review. If you do like it, please give me a like and give me a sub. That would mean a ton to me. Again, check those links in the description for a lot of great deals. And if you get any other time, one thing I recommend is that you check out some other videos as well, where I talk a lot about Android content. I hope you have a great day, and no matter what you're going through in life, I hope you have an amazing week.